In episode 5, you find out exactly where Five was during the whole apocalypse. He was traveling around kind of lost until a woman finally appears and offers him a proposition. She's from a company that keeps everything in order. So everything is supposed to happen for a reason. You've probably heard that, but in this reality, everything actually is supposed to happen for a reason. There are people that want to alter that reality, and then there are people from this company that keep everything in order. Five says, well, why don't you just solve this? Why don't you just solve the apocalypse? She says, because this apocalypse was supposed to happen. Now, Five accepts the proposition because the alternative is staying in the apocalypse, and he's really good at this job. The whole thing with this job is you have a 5-year contract, and then you have a pension. But the whole time, Five is just trying to get the math right to get back before the apocalypse to try to save it. So he ends up breaking his pact and leaving before his 5 years are up. His last job was ironically killing JFK because he finally is able to get the math right, and that's what led him back to his brothers and sisters. And that is why Cha-Cha and Hazel are after him, because they're from the same company and they're hunting their own because Five is trying to stop the apocalypse. And you can't screw with the space-time continuum. Now, speaking of Hazel and Cha-Cha, they're still searching for their briefcase, which helps them travel through time. And the person who has it is obviously Klaus, who just got back from 1968. During that time, Klaus joined the army, met friends, saw them die, and he is clearly affected by this. As soon as Klaus gets back from 1968, he destroys the briefcase and starts heading home, where Five ends up running into him, and Five can tell that he is going through the effects of time travel. So Five wants to know where the briefcase is, and Klaus tells him, look, man, I destroyed it. And that doesn't sit well with Five because he starts screaming at him, calling him an idiot, saying, I could have just kept going back in time to try to restart this thing until I figured it out, but now I have one shot at it because you destroyed the briefcase. Now, one of the people that's really pissed off at NumberFive is Diego. Diego basically blames NumberFive for the fact that his girlfriend died. Diego will deal with NumberFive later, but he's on the hunt to find out exactly who did this and make them pay. At this point, Klaus just wants to get away from NumberFive, so he offers help to Diego to try to figure out who killed his girlfriend. They end up setting up shop in the Donut Place's parking lot and doing a little bit of a stakeout, and they end up seeing Hazel, and that's when Klaus goes, hey, that's the guy who tortured me. So Diego and Klaus end up following Hazel back to the motel/apartment area, but Hazel's on to them. He's not going to let Diego just sneak up behind him and make him pay, so him and Cha-Cha sneak out the back, shoot up their car, and leave them with nothing but an ice cream truck to drive. But they're not just fleeing an apartment, they actually have somewhere to go. Because Five has left them a note saying, hey, I have your briefcase, meet me at this location. Obviously, Five doesn't have the briefcase, but he does want to meet with them. He ends up bringing Luther, who is just being Luther, nosy, needs to know everything, needs to be involved. And Five has explained to him, look, we need these people. Five has done some quick math and realizes that there's about 4 people in the world that if I kill these people, it'll alter the space-time continuum and it'll help save the world. And by the way, these people aren't politicians, they're literally everyday people. So as they're waiting for Hazel and Cha-Cha to show up, they finally do, and Five goes, look, I need you to get me a face-to-face meeting with your superior. Hazel ends up going over and calling her superior and having a conversation, but out of nowhere, Diego and Klaus ruin everybody's plans and show up in the ice cream truck looking for vengeance. And of course, Hazel and Cha-Cha think this is a setup because they're all related. So all parties involved start getting into a firefight, and a little bit after the shit hit the fan, time just stops. And the woman who offered Five the deal way back in the apocalypse is back. She goes, look, you aren't going to be able to stop what's going to happen. What's going to happen is going to happen. But we're actually here to offer you a new contract. In this situation, you'd actually be management. So you're not going to be doing your old job. You'd be at the home base, and you would be a manager. He's a little bit hesitant, but Five agrees to it under one condition. You keep my family safe. So it looks like the apocalypse is still going to happen, but the family is going to remain okay. They shake on the agreement, and both of them disappear. When time starts back up, this allows Luther, Klaus, and Diego to escape, and Cha-Cha and Hazel are left with the shit end of the stick. And then there's the issue of Vanya and Allison. Vanya is still seeing Leonard, and there's something about that just kind of skeeves Allison off. So Allison does a little bit of digging, goes to the library, and starts trying to research him and realizes there's absolutely nothing on this guy. There's an article, there's an address, but there is nothing else. She confronts Vanya about this, but Vanya is not wanting to hear any of it. She tells him, I like him, it's nothing. And Vanya's mind really isn't on Leonard because she's a tryout for first chair. Amazingly, the girl who was first chair has just disappeared. So she's pretty nervous. She has this big tryout. Her sister is telling her that her boyfriend is weird. And on top of it, she's doing all of this without her medication. But she says she's never felt better. And during the tryout, out of nowhere, something happens. This spirit kind of comes out of her. It changes the whole mood of the room, and she blows everybody away. Figuratively, not literally. Now, while Vanya dazzles the committee on her violin skills. Allison is not taking no for an answer and ends up breaking into Leonard's home. She's forced to leave early because Leonard comes home. So Allison is able to escape. And it's a pretty good thing, too, because later on, Vanya and Leonard end up meeting up. She tells him, hey, I got first chair. They end up hooking up, but above them in the attic is, of course, the former first chair, dead. So Leonard killed her. The episode doesn't end there, though. It ends with Pogo, who is fixing the mother. He says to the mother, do you remember what happened? She says, yes. And Pogo says, well, you know that the children can never know. The mother kind of looks away uneasy, and Pogo says, do you understand? And she says, yes. And he says, good.